you very much for joining us, guys. We're very, very excited to welcome James from BrewDog and to hear from him about his journey building BrewDog from the ground up and how it's been on that journey, what challenges he's faced, what advice he has for you guys. If you have any questions, it would be really good if you could keep them till the end, and then we can go through those.
Firstly, thanks for spending some of your Monday evening. I'm in my office at our headquarters up in northeast Scotland in a very cold, wintry, windy Aberdeen day. So let's go back to 2006 when it all started for us. So myself, my best friend Martin were making beers at home. I was working as captain of a North Atlantic fishing boat. So I studied at Edinburgh University. I studied law and economics for the first 2 years and then went on to just study law in third year and fourth year. I got a job in a legal office and I lasted 2 weeks. I absolutely hated it. But there's no way I'm spending my life sitting here in a cheap suit doing glorified admin. And would look across and see somebody in their 50s kind of doing exactly the same thing. I was like, no way, I'm out. So studied for 4.5 years to do a job for 2 weeks. Parents weren't too happy, wanted to do something completely the opposite. So I was in the high seas of the North Atlantic and studying at nautical college and became a captain. So during that time, I also became really passionate about beer, and myself and my best friend Martin were making beer at home. And in 2006, we got the opportunity to meet Michael Jackson. Not Michael Jackson, the pop star, but Michael Jackson, the legendary beer and whiskey expert, who at that time was the leading authority on beer and whiskey on the planet. He's since sadly passed away. And we met him down in London and we let him taste a beer that we made at home. He was like, oh my God, this is Michael Jackson tasting a beer that we made at home. Tasted it, put the glass down, looked at us quite sternly and said, boys, quit your jobs and start making beer. So we thought, if Michael Jackson's saying that, just let's do it. So we had £20,000 of life savings. We got a £30,000 loan from the bank, and we set up our business in 2007 with 2 humans, 1 dog, and a big mission to make other people as passionate about fantastic beer as we were. The first year was very, very tough. Nobody wanted to know. People told us to make our beers more cheaply, to make our beers with less hops, to change our packaging, to every aspect about it. And we were selling almost no beer. We both moved back in with our parents because we had no money to pay ourselves. And I was selling beer out the back of my beat up Volkswagen Golf. We were sleeping in sacks of malt on the floor, and it was just the 2 of us. So we were doing everything from the accounts very badly to sales, to making the beer, to bottling the beer. And we were very passionate, very determined, but essentially going nowhere. And 12 months in, we sent some beer to a Tesco beer competition, and I kind of forgot about it and got back to trying to sell beer out of the back of my Volkswagen Golf. And a few weeks later, I got a phone call from Tesco saying it would finished first, second, third, and fourth in this Tesco beer competition. I was like, okay, it's pretty good. So I went down to Tesco headquarters in London and sat there and spoke with the Tesco team. And I sat there with my best poker face as they told me they wanted to put 4 of our beers into 500 stores nationwide, and they were going to sell 2,000 cases a week. So I sat there with a poker face and didn't mention anything at all about the fact this was 2 guys and 1 dog filling bottles by hand. So I signed a contract with Tesco, which was due to start in 4 months' time, being fully aware of the fact that we'd no way to make that much beer, pack that much beer, or get that much beer to Tesco. So I got back and I sat down with Martin and we started to put together a plan. And we went to the bank, which was Bank of Scotland, and said to them, we've got this amazing deal with Tesco, but we need £100,000 for a new bottling line and £50,000 for a new fermentation tanks. And the bank just laughed at us. There's no way we can give you the money. You're not even paying your existing loan back. And this was 2008. So the kind of global economy was tail spinning into a recession, the financial crisis. So we'd no idea what to do. So we went to the bank across the street, which was HSBC, and said to the guys at HSBC, we've got this great deal with Tesco. Bank of Scotland have just offered us a fantastic finance package on a bottling line and some fermentation tanks. But if you guys can match this finance package, we're going to shift all of our banking to you. We're a young up and coming company. We're going places. You want to work with us. And for some reason, HSBC gave us the money. So business plan for the first 2 years was make hoppy American beers and tell lies to banks. Maybe it's still the business plan today, who knows? So we got the bottling line in, the beer came off the bottling line 2 weeks before it was due to go on the shelf in Tesco. We shipped the beer to Tesco, and from there we were able to start building our business. So we got a contract with Sainsbury's, then we started exporting our beer internationally, and then we kind of started picking up momentum as a business. Fast forward to today, we now employ over 2,000 people. We sell our beer in 65 countries. We've got 102 BrewDog bars all over the planet. We make beer in Scotland. We make beer in America. We make beer in Germany. We make beer in Australia as well. But we focused on building a very different type of business. So firstly, we are community owned as a company. So we're part owned by a community of 165,000 what we call equity punk investors. So anyone can go to our website and buy part of our business. So we launched this in 2009 before crowdfunding even existed as a concept. So I remember I spoke to 5 or 6 legal companies about this and they all just didn't want to know about it. And I kept going, and the 8th legal company I spoke to said, well, it might be possible if we do this and this. And we got arrangement with that company. And when we set up Equity Punks first time, it cost us £100,000 at a time that we'd only £50,000 in our bank account. So we gambled the entire future of our business on making this completely untried and untested business model called Equity Punks a success. So we put everything on the line. Luckily, it worked. And the fact that we're community owned, we don't see them as community members or investors. These guys are the heart and soul of our business. They're advocates, they're ambassadors, they're on this journey with us. They buy our beer, they tell their friends to buy the beer, they feel part of what we're doing. It's such an emotive connection. And for me, it's almost the ultimate business model for a consumer-focused company in the 21st century. And we've always been focused on trying to shorten the distance as much as possible between ourselves and the people who enjoy the beers that we make. And we think Equity for Punks is the ultimate incarnation of that strategy. We've gone on to crowdfunding records all over the planet, and we've got pockets of community everywhere, from Japan to Australia to South America to the US, Scandinavia, all over. And it's something we love about our business. Secondly, we're focused on being the best employer that we possibly can be. And we are fully cognizant of the fact that our long-term destiny is going to be determined by how well we look after our amazing people. So we are a living wage employer. We share 10% of our profits evenly with our team every single year. So it doesn't matter if someone is a junior bottling assistant or their CFO, they take home the same share of the profits each year. We also practice what we call open book management. So one of my favorite business books is called The Great Game of Business by Jack Stack, and it's all about open book management. So we share everything with our team. They get the full P&L every single month, so everyone knows exactly how the business is doing and everyone knows what they can do to impact positively on the business. Thirdly, we have a salary cap in our company, which means that nobody can join our company and be paid more than 7 times what the entry level position in our company is paid. Now, to put that into context, the average gap for a UK public company between entry level position and highest paid person is 144. In America, it's 304. So in our company, it's 7. So we want to create a company that's for everyone, a company that focuses on internal promotion, and a company that fosters and engages talent from within it as opposed to hiring externally. And that's been something that's very successful for us. We also do some interesting things like paternity leave. We were the first company ever to do that. So if somebody adopts a dog or gets a puppy, they get a week off work to help the new family member settle in. We give all of our team members 4-week sabbatical for every 5 years they've been with us, so they can go off and they can discover something or they can learn a new skill. So we're community owned, fiercely independent, and we're focused on being the best company we possibly can be to work for. Third thing that's going to be really key for us is we don't give a what anyone thinks. So we wear our heart on our sleeve. We take a stand for the things that we believe in. We do what we're passionate about, but some people love us, some people don't love us, and we really don't care. We're all about doing something which is true to ourselves, which is authentic to ourselves. And so many companies don't have a voice, don't have an opinion, don't have a personality. And for me, like, companies cannot afford to be like that anymore. Companies have got to make customers clear and aware of what they stand for, what they believe in. So we've made protest beers, we've got a point of view in political items, and we always fight for what we think is right, and we fight for what we think is important. Fourthly, sustainability is massively key to everything we do as a company. This is a recent development in our company's history, and up until about a year ago, we thought we were doing our bit for the planet. We thought we were kind of helping the cause. We took plastic out of our supply chain. We made a protest beer when the US came out of the Paris climate change agreements. But the more we dug into it, the more we realized that we weren't doing nearly enough. And we were actually a massive part of the problem that the planet is facing at the moment. So the science is absolutely clear here. We are sleepwalking off the edge of a cliff. We've got a very short time window that we can make the change needed to save the planet. 2050 is too late. 2040 is too late. We need to drive change now. So in the last 6 months, we've completely pivoted our business to focus solely on helping save the planet. So we are the first carbon negative beer in the world. So what that means is every single year we take twice the carbon out of the air that we put in as a company. This means that anytime someone has one of our beers, our planet gets less carbon. And when we count carbon, we count all of our carbon. So we worked with Professor Mike Berners-Lee, a fantastic author and an expert in carbon footprinting, to work out the carbon footprint of our business. And then we double offset that carbon amount. But we've also taken quite a unique approach to this. So our carbon is our problem. So we are going to fix it ourselves with the BrewDog forest. So we bought a 2,500 acre chunk of Scottish Highlands where we're going to plant over 1 million trees over the next few years to pull our carbon out of the air. So we're fixing the problem ourselves. We're also carbon negative when it comes to our team members. So we calculate the carbon footprint of every single member of staff that we have via an app called Portent. And then we double offset that carbon footprint as well. So we think of it, and again, we're the first company to do this. It's the ultimate employee perk. It is the planet. So everyone who works for us knows that by working for us, they also have a positive impact on the planet as well. International is something that's quite key to our business. And we started focusing on international pretty early on. So for the first 7 years of this company, I didn't have a single day off. And the strategy was, where can we send beer, which is a place that we want to go. So it kind of counts as a holiday. So all of our first export markets were just places that I wanted to travel to. And we sent beer to Tokyo and to South America, to Stockholm, to Berlin, to Italy, just places that we wanted to go and hang out in. And that kind of worked well for a strategy and helped us build our international business. We also do a lot of little videos on our website. And initially we kind of just bought a camcorder from Argos and shot them and edited them ourselves. And this led to myself and Martin getting our own TV show in the US. And we did 4 seasons of a network TV show out in the US. One of the funniest things about the TV show was we had to argue with the executive producer from Los Angeles for 3 months because they thought that our Scottish accents needed subtitles for Americans to understand them. So we ended up not having any subtitles, but it was pretty close, and the TV execs were hell-bent in subtitling myself and Martin. And because the TV show, we ended up getting quite a following in the US as a business. So we decided we should look to build a brewery in the US. And I think this kind of illustrates a lot about our company in terms of how we do it. So I spent 5 days visiting 5 different cities in America to try and decide where we should build something. So I went to Philadelphia, I went to Boston, I went to Richmond, I went to Charleston, and I went to Columbus, Ohio. And of all those cities, the one that I liked best was Columbus, Ohio. The mayor came out for dinner, had dinner with the mayor, saw some quite good locations, but I was there for less than 24 hours. And when I got back to Scotland, I sat down with Martin, my co-founder, and Neil Simpson, who's our CFO. And I was like, Neil, Martin, I know you guys have never been to Columbus. I know I've only been there for less than 24 hours. I know we've done no feasibility and no diligence whatsoever. I know this project is going to cost us $35 million that we don't have, and we've got no idea how the hell we're going to get, but we should definitely build this thing. And they were like, okay, let's do it. So I phoned up, I bought the land, we put plans in place, we figured out financing on the hop, and we built this fantastic, beautiful brewery in the heart of the Midwest in Columbus, which is a fantastic city in Ohio. Since then, we've gone on to add, we've got 42 acres, it's beautiful, gone on to add a beer hotel there as well. So the beer hotel in Columbus, Ohio, the rooms overlook the tanks where we make the beer. There's beer on tap in all the rooms. It's got a mini bar filled with a hand-picked selection of the best beers from all over the planet. The place is phenomenal, and Time magazine actually named it in one of their best 100 places on the planet last year, which was quite a cool accolade. So the kind of main centres for our business are our headquarters up in Aberdeen in northeast Scotland. So here we make and ship about 20 million cans and bottles of beer every month. Facility in Columbus. We've also got a brewery in the heart of Berlin in Germany, and then one down in Australia. And this strategy of making beer closer to where our customers are is better for the environment because we're not shipping beer over water. It's better for the customer because they've got a better price point on beer because they're not having to pay for expensive shipping rates. And it's also better for the beer quality because the fresher beer it is, the better it is. One thing that's really kind of guided our company is our mission and our dogmas. So our mission has been exactly the same since we set up in 2007. We exist to make other people as passionate about great beer as we are. That's what we stand for as a company. That's what we're trying to do. We've also got 5 dogmas that govern how our team should act and think internally, and it kind of forms the basis of how we want our team to behave and forms the basis of our company culture. And I would like to talk you through those dogmas just now. So dogma number 1 is we are a meritocracy, which often leads to the question, well, what the hell is a meritocracy? So for us, it's such an important building block of our culture. So meritocracy is a culture where you are on merit. No politics, no favors, none of that. It's purely based on how good a person's performance is. So a great example of a meritocracy is a professional sports team. If it's a soccer team, if you're in that starting 11, you're in that starting 11 based on merit. I think a school system is similar. You're graded every year, and how you do is based on that grade. So for us, we focus on internal promotion, we focus on staff engagement. But if someone isn't at the standard we need them to be, then that person shouldn't be in the company. So we took a bit of inspiration from Netflix in this one. So Netflix, an amazing business success story with quite a unique culture. And one of the key elements of the Netflix culture is that, and it's a fantastic quote, adequate performance gets a generous severance package. So if one of their team members is performing adequately, that is not enough for Netflix, and they ask that person to leave the business. It sounds quite harsh, but it's a very tough competitive environment out there, and you've got to make sure you've got the best people. You've got to make sure you've got a team full of A players. And by being a meritocracy helps us do just that. Our second dogma is own your numbers. So it's so important that all of our team understand the key metrics that drive their part of the business. So if someone is managing one of our fantastic bars, we've got 2 locations in Edinburgh. If someone is in our international sales team, if someone is in our production, they've got to know and understand the key metrics that drives their part of the business. So to do that, everyone in our company has one of these. So we call it the cube, and this is my cube. So on each of the cube, we've got the top 5 objectives of the company, and we've also got an individual's top 5 objective, which is here. So everyone has got this on their desk, which has got our most key targets. It's sometimes got some nice photos of them kind of being part of the journey, but everyone's got something that sits on their desk that means that they know exactly what we want the company to deliver and what they do to help the company deliver that. Our third dogma is be where the action is. In so many companies and so many cultures, it's so easy to hide and not be where the decision making is. So firstly, we focus on having a very flat organizational structure. We hate hierarchy, we hate layers, we detest middle management, and we've got none of that bullshit in our company. So in most companies, there's a fundamental disconnect between the person who makes the decision and where the decision gets implemented. In most companies, there's maybe 1 or 2 layers of management in there. What happens is it creates a huge disconnect between what's happening and how that is being implemented. So you've got the person making the decision here, then you've got manager, then you've got manager, then you've got person implementing the decision. So when the decision gets implemented down the way, it gets diluted through each layer of communication it goes. And then when feedback comes back up the way, the feedback gets distorted. So for us, the way to have an effective company is just take all that bit out, and the person making the decision is very close to where that decision is implemented. There's another quote that kind of inspires our philosophy here, which is don't move information to authority, move authority to information. One of the initiatives that we use that help us do that is called Dogs on Deck. So myself and all of my senior management team spend 4 days every month working with our bar staff behind one of our bars. We spend time working the floor with production. We spend time out and about with sales team. We need to be where the action is and where the key things are that drive our business. Fourth dogma that we have is challenge everything. So this is inspired by a quote from Einstein, and that quote is, blind faith in authority is the greatest obstacle to truth. So if you accept the status quo, if you accept everything as it is, you're never going to find your own path, and you're never going to find a way to be disruptive, to do something differently. So when we set up this company, we had no idea what the hell we were doing, but that was actually our biggest advantage. That naivety, that not understanding how things were supposed to be done, meant that we could just go ahead, forge our own path, and do things in our own terms. So we have to challenge everything. We ask all of our team to have their bullshit filters turned up to 11 every single day. Everyone else in the business world's got their own agenda. We've got to fight for what's right for our company, and we've got to challenge things. If you don't challenge everything, you're never going to find your own path, and you're never going to find a way to do something better than what other people are doing in the industry. And the final one of our dogmas, and it's maybe my favorite, is count time in dog years. Dog years are 7 to 1 in terms of human years, and we like to move incredibly quick as a company. We think in the future there's going to be 2 types of businesses, the fast and the dead. And by moving moving in dog years. That means if a normal company would take 7 days to do something, we want to do it in 1 day. If a normal company would take 7 months to do something, we want to do it in 1 month. And it gives us an incredible competitive advantage in an industry that's dominated by stuffy, international, global corporate behemoths that move incredibly slow. That speed, that responsiveness, that being able to pivot, that being able to adapt is something that's very, very important for us as a company. So everyone has also got the dogmas on their cube, and it's a very, very key part of our company culture. We're 12 years into this journey, and I think what we're most excited about is where we can go and where we can take this thing from here. So we've had a good 12 years, but I think all we've done so far gives us the platform and gives us the ability to do something meaningful and something impactful. So we want to set a new standard when it comes to sustainability, but we also want to build a new type of business, a business that gives back, a business that looks after its team, a business that looks after the planet, and a business that is part community owned. And we're just really excited about where we can take this thing from here. So that is a 25-minute overview of our business, and I'd be very happy to answer any questions that you guys want to throw in the chat.
Well, thank you so much. That was really thorough and it was really interesting to listen to. We'll take questions in a moment. If people can either do the raise hand function so we don't get loads of questions at once, or put them in the chat, then we can go through the questions. So we have a question here. First of all, thank you for the presentation. Learned quite a bit about what works and what doesn't as a passion project. I'm curious, did you plan your business in advance or did you build it up as you go? Also, how hard is it to change your name to Elvis and back? Also, I'd love to know more about the learning resources you used when starting out.
I think business plans are a complete stone-cold waste of time, and they're not even worth the paper they're written on, and they're the refuge of weak and mediocre people. Don't waste your time with garbage like business plans. It was very easy to change my name to Elvis. I downloaded a form off the internet. It cost me £20 and I was Elvis for 2 weeks. A little bit of background to that one for people who don't know. We made a beer called Elvis Juice. A few weeks later, we got a letter from dead Elvis's legal team saying that we couldn't use the name Elvis in a beer, and if we did, we had to pay them a license fee for every can, case and bottle that we sold. So myself and Martin legally changed our names to Elvis, and we sent them a letter back saying they couldn't use our name in all of their music, and they had to pay us a license fee for every time one of the pieces of music was played. So that was why I ended up as Elvis. So learning resources is just going to give you someone else's perspective, and that is a perspective that's out there anyway. If you're starting something, you've got to find your own perspective. You've got to find your own take of things. So we didn't use any learning resources at all. I went to a couple of business gateway learning mornings. It was the most terrible thing I'd ever seen. So I left after 20 minutes and decided to focus on the business instead.
Hi, everyone. Hi, James. My question is, what made you decide to open new bars of BrewDog during the coronavirus? This is kind of an unconventional business strategy, and we all know that we even pivoted to producing hand sanitizers during the pandemic. But I was just wondering, is that part of your values to drive forward during the difficult times?
Great question. So firstly, on hand sanitizer. So we've always wanted to show that business can be a force for good. So when COVID kicked off, we pivoted our distillation business from making gin and whiskey and rum to making hand sanitizer. And we have made and donated 500,000 bottles of hand sanitizer to the NHS, healthcare charities, and key frontline workers. And it's something that I'm very proud of us having done as a team. Secondly, we have got 20 bars globally at various stages of construction at the moment, with another 10 due to start soon. So it might seem like the craziest, stupid time to open a whole heap of new bars ever, which it probably is. And my grandmother always used to tell me, James, you're just as well to be hanged for a sheep as a lamb. And it's pretty much formed the entire basis of our business strategy. And for me, our business is either going to be a huge global success or it is going to crash and burn completely. And I am totally fine with those odds because the space in between is completely boring. So time and time again throughout our history, we've taken massive gambles, we've taken huge bets, we've put everything in the line for what we believe in. And we believe, even though it might seem counterintuitive, that and despite how tough a time the hospitality industry, ourselves included, is having at this moment in time, no one else is investing. No one else is building new hospitality experiences. So when we come out the other side of COVID-19, there's going to be a lot of pent-up demand for that. So if we take a huge gamble and build some amazing new locations just now, we're going to be fantastically positioned on the other side. So high stakes gamble, fingers crossed it pays off. Otherwise, I'm going to be back in the fishing boat.
Thank you so much. That's great. I hope it works out for you too.
Yeah, we'll see. What's the worst that can happen, huh?
Alice, over to you.
Hi. So first of all, I think it's so cool that so many parts of your business plan are based on ethical ideas and focusing on sustainability and the well-being of your employees and so on. But I wanted to know, what was the hardest one to push through the company? And were they like hard to implement in general due to the fact that some new companies have that profit need stress?
The beauty of this company is nothing's hard to push through it because it's just myself and Martin. So it was the easiest thing in the planet. It was just like, this is the right thing to do. We want to do it. So let's do it. And there's a balance. So we have always been profitable as a company, and we've wanted to build the company in kind of very strong foundations. And I think it's a win-win situation. So for instance, we're a real living wage employer. We provide private medical care for all of our team, and we share our profits with our team as well. What I think this means is we can attract and retain a better quality team member than our competitors. And our better quality team members is going to look after our customer better, which means we're going to do better as a company. So for me, whenever we invest in our team or invest in sustainability, it's win-win because it resonates with our customers. We do well as a business, but we also get to do something good at the same time.
Just to add on to that, a question of my own is, do you think sort of the future of business is changing and that people are seeing that actually business and sustainability can go hand in hand? Because I find previously there was this idea that they're completely different. Either you're sustainable and you're a social enterprise, or you're a charity, or you're profitable. Do you find that that's maybe changing now?
That is changing, and that is going to change like an absolute tsunami over the next 5 years. So one of the legacies of the terrible tragedy that is COVID-19 is people are going to be so much more cognizant of how interlinked we are as humans on this planet. People are also going to be so much more aware of the impact we are having on the planet. So I think what we've done from a sustainability perspective in terms of being carbon negative and taking twice as much carbon out of the air as we emit is cutting edge and kind of leading the way at the moment. I don't think it will be in a few years, and I hope it's not in a few years because other companies need to step up to the plate and do this as well. And it's not, if we change a decent sized company, but in the overall global scheme of things, we're relatively small and we can't do it on our own. So we want to be a catalyst for change. We want to inspire others to change as well. And the change has to come from consumers, and consumers have to vote with how they spend their money. And I think as a consumer, and we're all consumers, the companies we choose to support in terms of how we spend our money has a bigger impact on the future of the planet than how we vote every 4 or 5 years. Like how you consume is such an important decision. What type of companies are you giving your money to? And then what are those companies doing with the money? And again, I think this is something that consumers are going to be far more aware of, and it's something that needs to happen. And we want to be open book, we want to be transparent, and we want to hopefully facilitate that change. But I think the business landscape and purpose and sustainability and how companies look after team members and community, at the moment, it's a minor thing. 5 years in the future, it is going to be the only thing.
Looking forward to seeing more companies take BrewDog's lead. So we have another question from Yannick. Thank you for this awesome talk. You said that the first year was really hard and that no one wanted to buy your beer. So why did you decide to continue working on the business rather than find a stable job? Were you not afraid that your business it might fail and you might end up behind in your career or financially? How and when would you know that your business isn't working, and when is it time to move on to something else? Thank you.
Any startup business, you're going to get so many kicks and so many knocks and so many setbacks and so much disappointment, and it's going to be so intense. 95% of startup businesses fail, and you need two qualities. So you need to be so stubborn and single-minded, and you also need to believe. You need to believe when there's no reason to believe. I remember one day we hadn't paid any of our bank loan back. I spent all day trying to sell beer, and I got to the last potential customer of the day having not sold a single case, and I went in. It was a small hotel in our hometown of Fraserburgh. I did a sales pitch and I let him taste the beer, which was Punk IPA. Tasted it, spat it back into the glass and says, "Listen, I don't like any beer that's got hops in it." And you think, okay, do I tell this idiot that every beer's got hops in it, or do I just put the case back in the boot of the car and wonder what the hell I'm going to do? So a lot of days like that, but you've just got to believe. I mean, if you don't believe, then no one else is going to do the believing part for you. So insanely tough, and we were not going to let this fail. We were going to do everything we possibly could to turn this into a success. We believed in it, even though it was very bleak for a long time, even though we were working 20 hours a day, even though we couldn't pay ourselves, even though we got zero money in our bank account, even though we got zero money in the company bank account. We always believed at what we were doing. If we stuck to it and did it with enough tenacity and determination and enough passion, we'd get there, and just got to be stubborn, just got to believe. 95% of businesses fail. And I think a large percentage of those are not because the business didn't work, but the person setting it up wasn't stubborn enough, wasn't committed enough, and didn't believe in it.
Thank you. Over to Eddie.
Hi, James. Thanks for chatting to us. I think the work BrewDog have done with the decarbonising is really inspiring, and I think it will be copied by lots and lots of people, providing like big organisations a blueprint to copy, and I think that's really wonderful. I wanted to know, how do you think it's going to impact your business as something that's fast moving? Because it seems like a lot of what BrewDog's done really well is come up with ideas quickly, implemented them quickly, and what you've done is you've added a lot of very important, very worthwhile, but baggage to it, new metrics, new things you have to measure. Is that going to slow you down?
No, it's not going to slow us down at all. I think we can do this and we can continue to go fast. And for me, it's not adding baggage. This is something that's fundamentally core to what we do and what we believe in as a business. And there's a few elements to our approach here. So firstly, we're removing twice as much carbon as we emit each year. So last year we emitted 67,000 tons of carbon, and that includes all the carbon in our supply chain. So a few months ago, we took out over 130,000 tons of carbon in the air using partners until we start planting in our own forests. But companies can't just see carbon removals and offsets as a get out of jail free card. So we're doing two things here. We're taking twice the carbon out of the air that we emit, but we're also investing massively to reduce the carbon that we emit in the first place. So tomorrow we take delivery of our first electric vehicle. We're installing a £12 million bio plant about 300 meters that way. That's going to do a couple of things. So it's going to take spent malt, which is our biggest byproduct, and turn it into biomethane, which is going to power our brew house. It's also going to take our wastewater and turn that into food grade CO2, which we can use to carbonate our beers, and then also water, which we can use again in our process. We're planting our own hop farm in Columbus, Ohio, to reduce the distance our ingredients have to come to us. Now, all of our facilities and all of our bars are 100% wind powered as well. So there's two sides to the equation. It's something we're completely committed to. I don't think it's something that slows us down. And I think it's something that resonates with the customer as well. So, you know, if you're having a punk IPA or you're having a hazy Jane, you're not just neutral from an environment perspective, you are taking carbon out of the air, and the world has less carbon because you're doing that. And it's a message that has landed really well with our customers, with our distributors, with our retailers so far as well.
Thank you. Shannon, over to you.
Thanks for your talk. I think with big corporation diplomacy, it's very much incorporated in your business model. And you can see how businesses like BrewDog would have proved that, you know, governments, even though they've proved to be completely inept in the face of this crisis, private corporations could like stand up and do something about it. So my question for you is, why would you be implementing the carbon neutral plan? Do you have to like take money out of your revenue stream, or are you a part of the EU emissions trading system? What do you gain from it other than the fact that you're doing good altruistically for the world?
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we get like that is the entire reason we're doing that, but hopefully it's enough. So we're not part of the EU scheme. I think what you said about governments completely resonated. So governments have proved completely inept and incapable at dealing with this climate crisis. They deal in too short timescales, and they're just not going to be able to drive the change this world needs. So if we are going to get out of this mess, it is going to be down to progressive businesses, and we want to lead the way out of this mess. So it's a disaster that COP26 has been cancelled in Glasgow. So one of the things that we're doing at the moment is organising AltCOP, which is going to be an online business-focused climate summit where we take together the best, most progressive businesses, some amazing scientists, and then we host that. So governments are not going to get us there, and it's going to be businesses and also consumers with the decisions that they make that's going to get us out of this mess. And does it cost us a lot of money? I mean, we've spent 30 million so far on reducing our carbon footprint. We're going to spend 20 million over the next 24 months on land and planting trees. And I guess it means we can sleep at night and know that we're not making a terrible situation worse. And we believe that it's going to help our business long term because it's going to resonate with customers. And as consumers educate them more and more about what's happening in the environment, they're going to want to align their buying decisions with companies that are doing the right thing when it comes to this.
Part of your business plan, not only is it like altruistically giving back to the community and also like positively contributing to society, it's also to tap into like the ESG market. Is that like part of the plan?
ESG?
So like ESG criteria, meaning companies that follow environmental, social, and governance criteria that would be, you know, beneficial and not debilitating to society.
And what was it you mentioned about ESG, so that we fall into the ESG?
Yeah, so is part of your business plan trying to tap into the market where consumers are only investing or only consuming from ethical business? Is that part of the plan?
No, Not really. And I mean, this is going to sound like super basic, but we don't think about it in that way. So for instance, so everything that we do is completely selfish. And it sounds weird for a business, like we never think about the customer. So, and I think if you think too much about the customer, what the customer thinks, then you get caught up in this trap, because like the one thing that just drives me absolutely crazy is when people ask me like, who is your target market? I find the question so stupid that my stock response is, my target market are borderline alcoholics with commitment issues. I think just the concept of a target market is stupid thinking by academics that have never run a business in their life. So even if you have a target market, everyone wants to be something else. Young people want to be older. Old people want to be younger. So you're basing everything you're doing in the stereotypical aspirations of a stereotype, and the whole thing just falls down. Secondly, consumers are going to tell you their behavior is governed by logic. It is not governed by logic in any way, shape, or form. So consumers' behavior is almost always emotional, and they reverse rationalize it with logic. So they're trying to make assumptions on this person's going to like X. Well, what's their stereotypical aspiration in their head, and then what is the emotion driving that? And I think the whole thing completely falls down. So our position is kind of really easy on this. We are completely selfish. We make things that we want to enjoy ourselves. It's not, we think the market would like this. We don't do any customer research, even when we're developing things. We make things that we love. We make things that we want to drink ourselves, and we build a company with the type of policies and type of things that we are proud of being part of, and that's it. And if it responds with people and it lands, fantastic. And if not, we can kind of hold our head up high knowing that we've done something true to ourselves. That answer would get me like 0 out of 100 in a business exam at university, I know.
Also, I know how the PR of BrewDog is very established, especially you know, with its like campaigns for International Women's Day, and very recently the development fund of like £100,000 to establish and support Black-owned breweries. Can you kind of like walk us through the ethos behind that, the logistics of actually finding, you know, Black-owned breweries and what you're substantially doing for them? And also, can you talk about the scandal, like the pink version of the Punk IPA ahead of the International Women's Day in 2018, which was publicized as a beer for girls and was sold like 20% cheaper in an attempt to highlight the gender pay gap, which resulted in like social media backlash from critics who felt like a wrong message was sent out, or at least like failed to convey the right message in an appropriate way?
Okay, good questions. Okay, let me take these kind of one by one. Firstly, our PR approach has been very deliberate and very intentional from day one. So we are in an industry dominated by global behemoths. Our biggest competitor is 2,500 times our size. These companies also spend a huge amount of their income on advertising. That is their kind of key market and tool. They advertise, and they spend so much money on advertising to try and convince naive people that this watered down, insipid fallacy is what beer actually should be, when it's this bastardized commodity that is essentially garbage. So we very early on took the view, if we're going to compete, advertising is going to be a stone cold waste of time. We're going to have to find a way to punch way above our weight in terms of PR, in terms of social, and in terms of engagement. So what that means is that we've done a lot of things which is kind of very close to the edge and very close to the line. We have projected ourselves naked onto the Houses of Parliament. We have thrown stuffed cats out of a helicopter flying over the Bank of England. We have made a protest beer about Vladimir Putin and done a whole host of other things. So until you kind of cross that line, you kind of don't quite know where it exists, and we've definitely crossed the line in a couple of times. You mentioned Pink IPA. Pink IPA was a well-intentioned mistake. So there was a disconnect here between the core concept and how we executed it, and it was a strategic mistake on our behalf. So the core concept was we wanted to do something on International Women's Day that highlighted the gender pay gap and looked to make a statement about that being completely unjust and unfair. The tool that we decided to use to do that was to create a beer called Pink IPA that we would sell, and the gap between the price of Pink IPA would be the gender pay gap at that time, and all the proceeds from sale of that beer would go to charities which were working to diminish the gender pay gap. So the intention was really good, but what we did to try and fulfill that intention didn't land that well. And people just saw Pink IPA, beer for girls, and didn't see any of that. And the backlash was justified because we put too extreme activation onto what was a good core idea, and the activation didn't make it clear what the core idea was and what we were trying to do there. So hands up, we made a mistake with that one. And we've made a few other mistakes in our 12 years, and we're kind of always happy to admit when we make a mistake. The fund that you mentioned, the fund is in collaboration with our good friends Tio and Benny, who run Crown and Hop. So Tio and Benny are on a mission to get more diversity within the beer business. We've been an investor in Tio and Benny's business for the last couple of years, and we help them in various projects. So the project we're working with them on at the moment is the April Pills Fund. So we've given an initial $100,000 into this fund, and then Tio and Benny are working to find and support more Black-owned breweries and ethnically diverse-owned breweries in the US, and they're going to provide ongoing support as well as ourselves on an ongoing basis to try and get more diversity within our industry, which is better for everyone. So that project is ongoing at the moment.
All right, thank you so much for answering my questions.
Good question, thank you.
There were many major driving forces behind your success and many things that you did really amazingly and to build up your company. But if you had to boil down to one thing, your success to one thing that you did right, what would it be that made BrewDog such a successful company as opposed to others or just a small niche beer company?
I'm going to give you 3. Ignored advice. Everyone's going to give you advice. And as soon as you say you're starting a business or you're doing a business, everyone's going to give you advice, like ignored advice. Don't care what people think. People get so caught up caring what people think. I think you've just got to do something that's authentic to yourselves, not care what people think, and just be insanely committed and determined. You've got to commit to this thing. If you're starting a business, you've got to be insanely committed. Otherwise, you're going to end up in that 95% of businesses that fail. There was one interesting question from Ross that I want to touch base on. So, were any of our early hires a disaster? Yes, but many of our subsequent ones were as well. And it's been something that has been tough for us as a business. So the most important thing for any business is the company culture, because that determines how people act on a day-to-day basis and determines where the company goes. And the most important way that you can set company culture is deciding who is part of the company and who isn't part of the company. So the hiring decisions that any founder, that any CEO, that any hiring manager makes are the most important decisions they make by far. And a lot of people find it tough to have to let people go. But if you don't let people go, you can't have an excellent company and you can't have an excellent culture. And we always say internally that clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So if someone isn't performing well, if someone isn't a fantastic fit in a company, we have got a moral obligation to that person to let them know it's not working out, to tell them a few things they can do to get it to work out, but to also make sure that they know if they don't do these things, it's not working out, they don't have a place in our business. First person that we hired, we kind of got lucky and it worked out fantastic well. So we needed to hire someone to help us make beer. So we put an advert online, and an Indian gentleman, Narayananan, who was working in Nigeria at the time, sent me an email. And we could only afford to pay 20,000. But he sent me an email with his kind of list of demands. He wanted £50,000 salary, private education for his daughter, company car with driver, just this kind of whole list of things. And I just sent him an email back saying, hey, I appreciate the interest. At this time, we can offer no more than £20,000 per year. Within 20 seconds, my phone rang, and this was Narayananan. He said, hello, James, I'm delighted to accept your kind job offer. I was like, well, I wasn't sure it was a job offer, but sure, what the hell, let's do this. So Narayananan moved from Nigeria to Northeast Scotland with his family, and he was with us for 8 fantastic years. He's since moved on, but works in the whiskey industry. But our first hire in Narayananan worked out fantastically well. One of my biggest mistakes was 24 months ago, I tried to put together a senior management team. So I thought mistakenly the only way to take the company to the next level was to hire a fancy management team of some amazing people with blue chip backgrounds. So I hired people from Red Bull, from Coca-Cola, from Diageo, from Virgin. So I had this very expensive management team of 7 people, and I ended up parting company with them all within 12 months. They didn't understand our company culture. They had a fantastic skill set, fantastic CV, but they didn't work within our business. And it was a huge learning for me. And since then, we've focused so much on internal promotion, the salary cap, working with our people, developing our own people. And the company is much stronger for it, but it's probably the biggest mistake that I've made since the set up the business.
Durga, you've had your hand up for a while, actually.
Hi, thank you for coming. I just wanted to ask a question about the career progression towards becoming an entrepreneur. I find it really interesting and brave that you're saying don't listen to advice, just come up with your own business model. This is quite interesting because it's unconventional for us. And I was just wondering, do you think working for a corporate company before starting a business would kill such form of enthusiasm? Should we not work for a corporate company, or is there a rule against this?
I'd say that would be too much of a generalization. I think there are loads of examples of people working in corporate companies and going on to become fantastic entrepreneurs. I think everyone finds their own path to that. And I think you've just always got to make sure you're doing something that you're passionate about. I mean, work takes up so much of people's lives, and so many people are stuck in jobs that they just don't like, that they've got no satisfaction. It feels like a chore. So I don't think it's important if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you're doing something beforehand, if it's a big company, if it's a small company, if it's a corporate company, if it's not a corporate company, I don't think that's important. I think what is important, you're doing something where you're aligned with the mission and values of that business, wherever it is, because if not, I think it's very difficult to give your all. I think it's important you're doing something that you enjoy. I think it's important you're working with people you respect. And I think it's important you're working with a boss and a structure where you get good feedback and you feel like you're developing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jamie?
I've been a big fan of yourself and BrewDog for a while, so it was really interesting to hear. On your Equity for Punch Tomorrow campaign, and obviously you were talking about how COVID, it marks a big shift in people realizing that they want to do good and companies doing the same and things. Do you think the rest of your industry is kind of grouped in the same way in kind of just as all companies, or do you think that now you've started this campaign and it's got so much traction, whether actually you've kind of almost shown the rest of the industry that it can be done? And just a quick other one, my family's from Peterhead. How's the new bypass affected? Has it made headquarter operations any easier as well?
Yeah, so the new bypass is amazing. And actually I went to high school in Peterhead. So I think it's so tough. I mean, we don't usually give too much bandwidth over what people in our industry is doing. I think so many people make the mistake of trying to find inspiration or getting too hung up with what their own industry is doing. Like if we're looking for inspiration, we always try and find it outside of our own industry. We hope that we inspire others to change. We hope that we can be a catalyst for change. And this world needs change. And I think all we can do is do what we think is right, be as transparent as possible, and hope that other companies want to join us on this journey from within our industry and beyond.
On that note, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We really, really appreciate it. And I think we learned a lot in terms of being able to be industry leaders, factoring in sustainability, ethics, and also writing our own rule books. You know, things have been done a certain way for a long time. In order to make a change in any industry, don't play by the rules. So that was really amazing. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks for having me. I'm going to pop my Insta and Twitter handle in the chat. So if anyone's got any other questions or just wants to say hi, you'll find me on Instagram and Twitter there. Best of luck with everything. Stay safe during what is a pretty crazy topsy-turvy 2020. And you guys get your hands on some good beer this evening.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.